Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: overseas hiring props up England's social care sector, data shows. Macron's baguette baker is Sri Lankan, the best bread maker in the country. The alarming rise of Germany's far right. Pakistan journalists and fans to be given visas ahead of India match. For arrested amid protest over using ex-airbase to house migrants. Overseas hiring props up England's social care sector, data shows. Financial Times. The care sector in England is relying heavily on overseas workers to offset a continued outflow of British and EU nationals, according to data from Skills for Care. Around 70,000 people took up care jobs in England in the year to March 2023 after the loosening of visa criteria, with a further 30,000 to 40,000 arriving between April and August. However, concerns have been raised over the exploitation of these workers, who are effectively tied to their jobs. Trade unions have described conditions as verging on modern slavery. Macron's baguette baker is Sri Lankan, the best bread maker in the country. The Sydney Morning Herald. A Sri Lankan immigrant living in France has won the 30th annual Best Baguette in Paris competition and now supplies the Élysée Palace with his bread. Tharshan Selvaraja, who arrived in the country in 2006, won the competition with his creation, beating 126 other baguettes. Selvaraja, who works 6 days a week at his boulangerie, said the key to his success was hard work and his love for what he does. He suggested that many previous winners of the competition had been from immigrant backgrounds as they often worked harder than the French. Selvaraja's wife and 2 children are French citizens, but he has not yet applied for citizenship himself. The baker said he had encountered occasional racism and prejudice, but that didn't bother him and he was now considering expanding his business into Dubai and Sri Lanka. The alarming rise of Germany's far right. Financial Times. The rise of the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, party is causing concern in the country. In recent regional elections, the AfD secured 18.4% of the vote in Hesse and 14.6% in Bavaria, making it the second most popular party in the country. The party was founded as a conservative protest movement against Angela Merkel's centrism and Eurozone bailouts for Greece. Its resurgence has been triggered by concerns over immigration, a cost-of-living crisis, opposition to arming Ukraine and a controversial new gas boiler ban. Pakistan journalists and fans to be given visas ahead of India match. The Independent. Zaka Ashraf, chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, Management Committee, will travel to India to watch the match between Pakistan and India in the Cricket World Cup after receiving assurances that visas will be granted to Pakistani journalists and fans. The PCB had expressed disappointment that visas had been delayed and had asked the International Cricket Council and the Board of Control for Cricket in India to expedite the process. Ashraf said that his conversation with the Foreign Office helped achieve a positive result and that Pakistani journalists will now receive their visas. For arrested amid protest over using ex-airbase to house migrants. The Independent. 4 people have been arrested and bailed following reports of disorder outside RAF Scampton, a former airbase in Lincolnshire. The government plans to use the base to house 2,000 asylum seekers. The 4 individuals were arrested on suspicion of assault and aggravated trespass. They have been bailed with conditions not to go within 200 meters of the site while police investigations continue. Lincolnshire police have stated that they will not tolerate disorder and will step in to protect the community if further reports are received. Pakistan cricket boss to travel India after World Cup visa issue for journalists and fans resolved. Associated Press. Zaka Ashraf, the chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, Management Committee, will travel to India to watch the Pakistan-India match in the Cricket World Cup. This comes after the PCB expressed disappointment over the delayed visas for Pakistani journalists and fans. Ashraf met with top officials of the Foreign Ministry in Islamabad to resolve the matter and also spoke with the Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, secretary, who assured him that Pakistani fans will soon start receiving their visas. Around 50 Pakistani journalists are accredited for the World Cup and some have already been contacted by the Indian High Commission in Islamabad to submit their passports for a visa. The delay in visa issuance also affected the Pakistan team, which received its visas less than 36 hours before it was due to fly to Hyderabad. Despite the delays, Pakistan started the World Cup with 2 victories. Ashraf hopes to motivate the team and encourage them to play fearlessly in their match against India. Germany calls for more immigrants to fix its shrinking economy. Financial Times. The German government has revised down its economic forecast, predicting that output will shrink by 0.4% this year due to a range of challenges including Russia's invasion of Ukraine, rising interest rates, and slowing global trade. Economy Minister Robert Habeck also highlighted a desperate shortage of workers and called for an increase in skilled immigrants to address the problem. Habeck expects the economy to rebound in 2023, with growth of 1.3% next year and 1.5% in 2025. Shadowy snitch takes starring role in bribery trial of veteran DEA agents. Associated Press. Former drug snitch Jorge Hernandez is set to testify in the trial of two Drug Enforcement Administration (DEA) agents, Manny Riccio and John Costanzo Jr., who have been charged in a $73,000 bribery scheme involving leaked information about ongoing drug investigations. Hernandez, a former DEA informant, recorded conversations with Riccio and Miami attorney Luis Guerra, which have been included in the indictment. The DEA has been plagued by a string of scandals involving corruption and misconduct, with at least 18 agents charged or convicted since 2015. Hernandez has a long and sordid history with the DEA and has been able to leverage his extensive contacts in the narco-trafficking underworld to stay out of jail and make money. The trial threatens to expose the seamy underbelly of the country's premier narcotics law enforcement agency, which has seen many of its agents become too close to their informants. The case is the latest embarrassment for the DEA, following the arrest of a standout agent in Colombia who laundered money for cartels and spent lavishly on Tiffany jewels and VIP travel, and another agent accused of accepting $250,000 in bribes to protect the mafia in Buffalo, New York. A Chilean national wanted in the killing of famed singer-activist Victor Jara is in custody after his U.S. citizenship was revoked. CNN. A former Chilean military officer, Pedro Barrientos, has been arrested in Florida for his involvement in the 1973 killing of singer-songwriter Victor Jara. Barrientos was charged by a Chilean judge in 2012 for the killing of Jara, who was one of the first victims of the military coup and dictatorship in Chile. Barrientos, who is a former military officer, is accused of torture and extrajudicial killing of Chilean citizens. He came to the U.S. in 1990 and overstayed his visa, but was able to obtain U.S. citizenship after marrying an American. In 2016, a civil jury in Florida ruled that Barrientos was responsible for Jara's death and found him liable for $28 million in damages to Jara's surviving family members. EU law could stop UK sending migrants to Rwanda despite Brexit. The Independent. UK laws derived from the EU could prevent the government from sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, according to lawyers. The government is challenging a Court of Appeal ruling that its plan to deport migrants to Rwanda for processing their asylum cases is unlawful. Lawyers argue that the UK is still bound by EU laws that ban the removal of asylum seekers to countries where they have no connection. The case is being heard in the Supreme Court and a judgment is expected in a few months' time. Hello, I am Dr. Six, your trusted observer from the 6 Degrees world. Today, we have an interesting mix of news from around the globe. Let's dive in. First up, we have news from England, where the social care sector is heavily reliant on overseas workers to fill the gap left by the outflow of British and EU nationals. It seems like the visa criteria loosening has attracted around 70,000 workers in the past year alone. However, there are concerns about the exploitation of these workers, with trade unions describing the conditions as verging on modern slavery. It's a complex issue that needs careful attention. Moving on to France, a Sri Lankan immigrant has won the prestigious Best Baguette in Paris competition. Tharshan Selvaraja's hard work and love for his craft have paid off, and now he supplies bread to the Élysée Palace. It's fascinating to see how immigrants often bring fresh perspectives and dedication to their work, as Selvaraja suggests previous winners from immigrant backgrounds have worked harder than the French. Kudos to him for considering expanding his business to Dubai and Sri Lanka. Now, let's talk about Germany, where the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, party is causing concern with its rise in popularity. The party has gained significant support in recent regional elections, making it the second most popular party in the country. Concerns over immigration, a cost of living crisis, opposition to arming Ukraine, and a controversial new gas boiler ban have fueled their resurgence. It's a reminder that populism and nationalism can gain traction even in stable democracies. In the world of cricket, we have news from Pakistan and India. The chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board, PCB, Management Committee, Zaka Ashraf, had expressed disappointment over the delayed visas for Pakistani journalists and fans. However, after positive conversations with the Foreign Office, visas are now being granted, allowing Ashraf to travel to India for the highly anticipated match between Pakistan and India in the Cricket World Cup. It's great to see that sports can bridge divides and bring people together. Shifting gears, we have news from the United Kingdom, where protests have erupted over the government's plan to house asylum seekers in a former airbase. 4 people have been arrested on suspicion of assault and aggravated trespass. The government's decision has sparked controversy, and the police have made it clear that they will not tolerate disorder. It's a reminder that immigration issues can be contentious and raise strong emotions. Speaking of immigration, Germany is facing its own challenges. The country's economy is predicted to shrink this year, and Economy Minister Robert Habeck has highlighted a desperate shortage of workers. He is calling for an increase in skilled immigrants to address this problem. It's an interesting development, as Germany, known for its strong economy, is now looking to immigrants to boost its workforce. In the United States, we have news from the trial of 2 Drug Enforcement Administration (DEA) agents. Former drug snitch Jorge Hernandez is set to testify against the agents, who have been charged in a bribery scheme involving leaked information about drug investigations. This trial shines a spotlight on the DEA's history of corruption and misconduct. It's a reminder that even law enforcement agencies can face challenges when it comes to maintaining integrity. Finally, we have news from Chile, where a former military officer has been arrested in Florida for his involvement in the killing of singer-activist Victor Jara during the military coup and dictatorship in Chile. Pedro Barrientos is accused of torture and extrajudicial killings of Chilean citizens. It's a significant development in seeking justice for the victims of human rights abuses. That's all the news for today. It's been an eventful day with stories highlighting the complexities of immigration, the rise of far-right politics, and the pursuit of justice. As always, I encourage you to share your thoughts and questions. What are your views on these news stories? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.